People always say that twins share a deep connection, something unbreakable. That was true for Emma and Emily, twin sisters who had been together since birth. They were not just sisters, they were best friends, each other's safe place in a world that had been cruel to them. Hello, family. Welcome to Storytime Virtually. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Don't forget to turn on post notifications for more videos. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Their lives were not easy. When they were just 10 years old, their parents died in a terrible car accident, leaving them alone in the world. With no close relatives willing to take them in, they ended up in the foster care system, moving from one home to another. Some homes were kind, others were not. They learned early that they could only rely on each other. Despite their struggles, they always found joy in the little things. When one of them was sad, the other would cheer her up. They dreamed of a bright future where they would make something of themselves and never have to struggle again. When they turned 18, they had to leave the foster system and survive on their own. They rented a small one-bedroom apartment in the city and started working to make ends meet. Emma found a job at a clothing store, while Emily, who loved children, got a job at a daycare. At night, they would sit together, talking about their future. One day, we will have a big house, Emma would say. We will never have to worry about money again. Emily would nod, smiling. And we will always be together, just like now. At that time, there was no jealousy, no bitterness, just love. But everything changed when Daniel entered their lives. Daniel was a young, successful businessman. He was tall, handsome, and carried himself with confidence. The first time he walked into the store where Emma worked, she didn't think much of him. But he noticed her immediately. She was beautiful in a simple way. Kind eyes, a warm smile, and a gentle personality that made people feel comfortable around her. "Excuse me," he said, standing by the counter. "Can you help me pick out a gift for my sister?" Emma smiled and helped him choose a dress. When she handed him the bag, he hesitated. "I hope this isn't too forward, but can I take you out for dinner?" Emma was surprised. She had never been asked out by a rich man before. She looked at him, searching for any sign that he was joking. But he was serious. After a moment, she smiled and nodded. "I'd like that." That was how it started. Daniel was unlike anyone Emma had ever met. He took her to fancy restaurants, bought her expensive gifts, and treated her like she was the most important person in the world. Emma fell for him quickly, and it seemed like he felt the same way. But while Emma was falling in love, Emily was drowning in jealousy. At first, Emily pretended to be happy for her sister. She listened to Emma talk about Daniel with excitement, smiling and nodding at the right moments. But inside, she was filled with anger and bitterness. Why Emma? Why not me? It didn't seem fair. They had grown up together, struggled together. Yet it was Emma who was being noticed by a rich, handsome man, while Emily remained invisible. She tried to ignore it, but the jealousy only grew stronger. Every time Emma came home with a new dress, new shoes, or a fancy bag, Emily's resentment deepened. She began to feel like she was in Emma's shadow, like she was nothing compared to her sister. One evening, Emma came home looking happier than ever. "Emily, guess what?" she said, holding up her hand. On her finger was a beautiful diamond ring. "Daniel proposed to me today." Emily's heart stopped. She stared at the ring, her chest tightening with a mix of emotions. She forced a smile and said, "That's amazing." But inside, she was screaming. That night, as Emma lay in bed, dreaming about her future, Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling. "No, this isn't right. It should have been me." And with that thought, something inside her snapped. From that moment on, she knew she couldn't let this wedding happen. Emily could not sleep that night. Her mind was full of anger, bitterness, and frustration. She turned in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Emma slept peacefully beside her. Why her? Why always her? Growing up, they had been equal. They wore the same clothes, ate the same food, and shared everything. But now, Life had chosen Emma to be the lucky one while Emily remained stuck in the same miserable position. As the days passed, Emily's jealousy only grew stronger. Every time Emma spoke about the wedding plans, Emily felt sick to her stomach. She pretended to be happy, but deep inside, she was boiling with rage. Then, an idea formed in her mind. If I can't have what she has, then she won't have it either. Emily knew she had to stop the wedding, but she couldn't do it openly. Emma trusted her completely, and Daniel liked her as his future sister-in-law. If she tried to break them up directly, they would see through her intentions. So she decided to play smart. Emily hired 2 men to spread terrible rumors about Emma. She paid them with almost all the money she had saved from her daycare job. It was risky, but Emily was desperate. The men's job was simple: make Daniel believe that Emma was an evil, possessive woman who would ruin his life. They started by approaching Daniel when he was alone in his office. "You don't know the real Emma," one of them whispered, pretending to be a concerned friend. "She's not as innocent as she seems." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" "She's controlling. She won't let you breathe once you marry her. We've seen how she treats people when you're not around. She acts like she owns the world." At first, Daniel didn't believe them. But then more people started coming to him with the same story. Some even claimed that Emma had a dark past, that she had once harmed someone out of jealousy. The lies began to eat at Daniel's mind. He started watching Emma more closely, questioning her every action. He became distant, cold, and unsure. Emma noticed the change immediately. One evening, she sat beside him, holding his hand. "Daniel, what's wrong? You've been acting strange lately." Daniel sighed, looking away. "I don't know, Emma. I've been hearing things about you." Emma's heart sank. "What things?" "That you're controlling. That you have a bad temper. That you might not be the person I thought you were." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. "Daniel, you know me. Do I seem like that kind of person to you?" Daniel hesitated. "I don't know what to believe anymore." The doubt was enough. A few days later, Daniel broke off the engagement. "I'm sorry, Emma," he said. I don't think we're right for each other." Emma was heartbroken. She cried for days, locking herself in her room, unable to understand what had gone wrong. Emily, on the other hand, felt a sick sense of victory. Now we are equal again. But there was one thing she hadn't expected. Daniel didn't propose to her. She had secretly hoped that after leaving Emma, he would turn to her. But he didn't. Instead, he moved on, leaving both sisters behind. Months passed. Emma slowly began to heal, though the pain of losing Daniel still haunted her. She went back to work, focusing on rebuilding her life. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. Emma was walking home from work when a black luxury car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and a deep, smooth voice called out, "Excuse me, miss." Emma turned and saw a man sitting in the driver's seat. He was breathtakingly handsome, tall, with sharp features and kind brown eyes. He had the aura of someone important, someone powerful. "My name is Ethan Carter," he said. "I hope this doesn't sound strange, but I've been coming to your store for a while now, and I've noticed you. You have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen." Emma blushed. She wasn't used to such direct compliments. "Thank you," she said shyly. Ethan smiled. "I was wondering if I could take you out to dinner sometime." Emma hesitated. After what happened with Daniel, she had sworn not to rush into anything again. But something about Ethan felt different. He wasn't just rich. He seemed genuinely kind. After a moment, she nodded. "I'd like that." When Emma told Emily about Ethan, she expected her sister to be happy. But Emily felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath her feet. Again? She gets the rich man while I get nothing? It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. Emily had done everything. She had worked hard, suffered just as much as Emma. So why was Emma always the one chosen? Emily watched as Emma and Ethan's relationship grew stronger. Ethan treated Emma like a queen. He sent her flowers, took her to expensive places, and made her feel loved in a way she had never experienced before. Soon Ethan proposed. This time, Emma was cautious, but Ethan reassured her. "I love you, Emma. Nothing will change that." Emily couldn't take it anymore. She tried to use the same trick again, hiring people to spread lies about Emma. But this time, it didn't work. Ethan was smarter than Daniel. He didn't believe the rumors. Instead, he investigated and found out that someone was trying to ruin Emma's name. Emily panicked. She tried everything to stop the marriage. She argued with Emma, begged Ethan to reconsider, even pretended to be sick to gain sympathy. But nothing worked. Emma and Ethan's wedding date was set. Emily knew she was losing. And then, a dark thought crossed her mind. If I can't stop this wedding, then Emma won't live to see it. Emily began planning the unthinkable. She knew Emma trusted her completely. If she wanted to harm her, it had to be in a way that wouldn't raise suspicion. One evening, Ethan invited Emma to his house for dinner. Emily saw this as the perfect opportunity. Before Emma left, Emily smiled at her. "You're so lucky, sister. Ethan is a good man." Emma hugged her. "I'm lucky to have you too, Emily." Emily forced a smile. "Of course." But as soon as Emma left, Emily took a small bottle from her bag, a bottle filled with deadly poison. She hurried to Ethan's house, knowing Emma would be dining alone while Ethan finished a meeting. She let herself in using the spare key Emma had given her and quickly poured the poison into Emma's food. Then she left. That night, Emma ate her meal, unaware of what her own twin had done. Minutes later, she collapsed. By the time Ethan returned home, it was too late. Emma was gone. Ethan was devastated. He held her lifeless body in his arms, crying uncontrollably. He couldn't understand what had happened. But the truth would soon come out. Because what Emily didn't know was that Ethan had CCTV cameras around his house. And soon, the world would see the shocking betrayal. Ethan sat on the floor, holding Emma's lifeless body in his arms. His entire world had shattered in an instant. He shook her gently, hoping, praying, that she would wake up. "Emma, please wake up," he whispered, his voice trembling. But she was gone. Tears ran down his face as he screamed her name. How could this happen? She was perfectly fine just a few minutes ago. He had only been gone for a short meeting. How did everything go so wrong? The doctors at the hospital confirmed his worst nightmare. Emma had been poisoned. Ethan was devastated, but in his pain, one thought stood out. Who did this? Who would want to harm Emma? He refused to believe it was an accident. Emma had no enemies. She was kind, loving, and never wished harm on anyone. That night, Ethan made a promise. "I will find out who did this to you, Emma. I will not rest until justice is served." The police launched an investigation immediately. They asked Ethan if he suspected anyone, but he was too heartbroken to think clearly. Emma was loved by everyone, he said. She had no enemies. The police inspected the house for evidence. That was when one officer noticed the security cameras outside the house. "Mr. Carter, do you have footage from these cameras?" Ethan's heart pounded. He had almost forgotten about the CCTV. "Yes," he said, rushing to check the recordings. He watched as the screen showed Emma arriving at his house, happy and excited. She entered, placed her bag on the table, and went into the kitchen. Then, another figure appeared on the screen. Emily. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He watched in horror as Emily entered the house with a small bottle in her hand. She moved quickly to the dining table and poured something into Emma's food. Then, she left, looking calm as if nothing had happened. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. His whole body shook with rage. Emily, her own twin sister, poisoned her? The betrayal was beyond anything he had imagined. Without wasting a second, he called the police. The next morning, the police arrived at Emily's house. She was sitting on the couch, drinking tea, when they knocked on the door. When she opened it and saw the officers, her heart skipped a beat. "Miss Emily, you are under arrest for the murder of your sister, Emma," the officer announced. Emily's cup fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. "What? Murder?" she stammered, pretending to be shocked. "I would never hurt my sister." The officer pulled out his phone and played the CCTV footage. Emily's face went pale. Her legs felt weak, and she nearly collapsed. She had been so careful. How did she not think about the cameras? The officers handcuffed her. As they led her away, Emily screamed, "I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to kill her." But the world didn't care for her excuses. Emily sat in the cold interrogation room, her hands trembling. The walls felt like they were closing in on her. She had always been confident, always in control, but now she was trapped. Across from her sat Detective Harris, his sharp eyes watching her every move. The silence in the room was suffocating. "Emily," he said finally, his voice firm, "we have CCTV footage of you poisoning Emma's food. There's no way around this. Just tell the truth." Emily's lips quivered, and her eyes filled with tears. She had spent her whole life trying to be better than Emma, trying to outshine her, but no matter what she did, Emma was always the one people adored. The jealousy had been eating her alive, and in one reckless moment, she had done something unforgivable. "I didn't want to kill her," Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. I just wanted the wedding to stop. I thought if she got sick, the marriage would be postponed. I didn't know it would kill her." Detective Harris leaned forward. "Why, Emily? Why would you want to stop her wedding?" Emily let out a bitter laugh, wiping her tears angrily. "Because it was always her. Always Emma. Rich men came for her. People loved her. No one looked at me the way they looked at her. I was tired of being in her shadow." Her confession came in sobs, and for the first time since her arrest, the weight of what she had done truly hit her. She had killed her own twin, her only family. And for what? For jealousy? There was no going back now. The courtroom was packed on the day of Emily's trial. The entire city had been shaken by the case of the twin sisters, the tragedy of love, jealousy, and betrayal. Ethan sat in the front row, his face blank. He had lost the woman he loved, and no punishment could ever bring her back. Emily stood before the judge, her head down. "Emily Carter, you have been found guilty of first-degree murder. The evidence is undeniable. You poisoned your twin sister, leading to her death. This court sentences you to life imprisonment." A loud gasp filled the courtroom. Emily let out a sharp cry, collapsing to the ground as the weight of her punishment crushed her. Life. She would spend the rest of her days behind bars, haunted by the face of the sister she had loved and destroyed. As the guards led her away, she turned to Ethan, her face soaked with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I loved her too." Ethan said nothing. Some wounds were too deep for words. Months passed, but the pain remained. Emma's absence left a hole in Ethan's heart, but he refused to let her memory fade. One evening, as he sat by the window of his empty house, staring at the engagement ring he never got to place on Emma's finger, an idea came to him. He picked up his phone and called his lawyer. "I want to build a school," he said. "A school for children who have no one. A place filled with love and kindness. And I want to name it after Emma." And so, the Emma Carter Academy was born. A place where children could learn, dream, and be loved, just as Emma would have wanted. Even in death, her light continued to shine. And Ethan knew, wherever she was smiling. That brings us to the end of this video. Kindly like and share this video, and also comment what you think about the story. Thanks for watching.